Back now with the roundtable, joined by ABC's Matthew Dowd, also David Axelrod, former strategist for President Obama, now runs the Institute of Politics, University of Chicago. You guys are team teaching
exactly
the 2016 campaign. And here on the other side, Congressman Keith Ellison, the first Muslim elected to Congress, and Republican Congresswoman Martha McSally, the first woman fighter pilot to fly in combat, now a member of the House Homeland Security Committee. Thanks to all of you for joining us. We just heard the candidates weigh in on some steps they're going to take in this fight against ISIS. This is now front and center, Matthew Dowd, in the presidential campaign.
Absolutely. You see it, the change in all the polls of where the issue was dominated by economy and jobs, and now it's dominated by terrorism and what's going on in the Middle East. The question is how long does that last? Does it last into a general election? I think it lasts within the Republican primary, throughout the course of the Republican primary. But it's changed the dynamics of the race, and we're just now figuring that out. A lot of people thought it would hurt Donald Trump because they thought voters would turn to somebody of competence and experience. The exact opposite has actually been happening because people, GOP voters for sure, want strength as the ultimate value. Strong and wrong is better than right and weak at this moment in amongst a lot of GOP primary voters.
And Congresswoman McSally, you do see those numbers for President Obama as well. A lot of discontent with his strategy against terrorism.
Absolutely. I mean, he's had a failed strategy since he's been in office. We've seen militant Islam growing over the last several decades. ISIS is just a new metastasized threat of that. He's not showed resolve or leadership, and we haven't seen a comprehensive strategy to actually attack them where they are, counter the violent extremism at home, and then show leadership in the global community.
From the Republican candidates?
Well, look, I'm interested in us getting away from the race being less of a reality TV show and WWF type tournament and actually more towards a serious discussion of who should be our next commander-in-chief. Who is the next person who should be leading our military, who should be leading our foreign policy, leading in the global sphere to actually fight against this threat and the many others that are emanating.
That does seem to be where the race is turning. That's going to be the top question right up there now with the economy.
It is for now. I agree with Matthew. We'll see where we are in 6 months and 8 months. We tend to get very focused on the event of the moment, but clearly it has given a platform for Donald Trump in that Republican primary because he has been able to project a kind of strength, unrestrained, you know, as impulsive and unrestrained as he is. People are responding to that. You know, George, I always had this theory, and it's what informed my view on why Obama could win in 2008, that people choose the remedy to what they have. They never choose the replica, and there is no more of an anti-Obama kind of figure in terms of personality than Donald Trump.
Right at the center of this as well, Congressman Ellison, this week, this whole debate over what to do with Syrian refugees. You heard Donald Trump say they should all go back. That combined with more surveillance of mosques, even the possibility of closing mosques, this debate has become hot.
It has, and that's exactly the wrong thing to do. I think we should project strength, and what that means is confidence in who we are as a nation. We're civilization. We give safe haven to refugees. We don't behead them and all these kind of bad things and exclude them. Let me just say that, you know, at this point in the game, we need to be adhering to the values that have made this country strong and not feeding into the Daesh narrative, which is exactly what these sort of panicky reactions are showing. Daesh says that Islam is at war with the West and the West is at war with Islam. This is a false statement. What we need to do is say that, no, we're not going to single out Muslims for to come into this country. We are going to have confidence in our Homeland Security Department, which has had 750,000 people, refugees admitted since 2001, and we are going to engage in diplomacy.
What about that argument that the House vote this week sends the wrong message to ISIS?
Look, in March, our chairman of Homeland Security appointed a bipartisan task force. For 6 months, we actually looked at combating the flow of foreign fighters and terrorists related to this ISIS threat. Actually brought the report with me here today. We delivered it to the administration in September. We had 32 findings addressing the broad threat from ISIS foreign fighter flow and homegrown extremism. One of them was potential gaps in the refugee program, which ISIS has said they want to exploit. So what we did this week is a bipartisan veto-proof vote that was a very, very narrow change that simply has the administration certifying that people are not national security threats. But this is just one step. We have got to address these other urgent threats as well.
How about that question, though, I posed? I want to go to you in 1 second. Yeah. That question I posed to both Dr. Carson and Donald Trump, though. You know, you talk about the gaps in security. Yeah. Then why is it okay for people on the terror watch list to buy guns?
Look, another finding we have of our 32 findings is related to the terror watch list. We have certainly got to have an independent assessment of that. There have been some issues with it. Additionally, we have our European allies. We share information on the watch list and the no-fly list, and EU EU travelers don't get checked against that list. These are some of the gaping holes we've identified. That's a really big hole we've identified in our task force.
Wait a minute. Of course, no guns. No guns to these people.
The answer is that the Republican caucus is more frightened as a political matter by the NRA than they are of ISIS. And on this question, they don't want to buck the NRA. That's why you have this. You don't have the watch list
David,
people on this list. I expected you would.
George, I think this is the refugee crisis. Unfortunately, is one of those issues that's in America today. It's dropped in just like many other issues. We think it's all calm. It's like ice in a water, a bucket of water, sorry. It goes up. It's all bubbles and all over. And I think this is that issue. If you try to find a center ground in this where you can say, we are a compassionate nation, that's who we are, and oh, by the way, we also want protection, we want to make sure we're protected, you're actually attacked on both sides. The problem I think Democrats have when they don't understand where Republicans are coming from on this issue is that a majority of the country doesn't want refugees, as you know, into this country right now. A majority doesn't trust the president on this issue, and a majority, in spite of what many people said, think we're at war with radical Islam. And until you accept and understand those fears, you can't get people to vote their homes.
Roosevelt made it clear. The only thing that fear is fear itself. People are looking.
And he in turn Japanese.
People are afraid, but the answer is not to pander to their fears. It's to offer leadership.
Right. Now, you're not calling for interning Muslims.
I'm the son of a refugee. I'm proud of the position the president took. I think it's the right one. But I think Matthew's right in the sense that before you attack the fear mongers, you have to attack the fear.
Right.
And he could have done more of that on the front.
And that press conference on Monday, he seemed a little listless going after it, and that's why he seemed much stronger in the press conference.
And didn't stand up for as explicitly as he should have for the system of letting refugees into this country, which is actually very, very exacting.
That's right.
He was tone deaf and detached in all of his comments after Paris. And the most that we've gotten out of him, riled up, is when he's attacking Republicans. He's not getting that across the globe and in America, people are deeply concerned about this threat. They're concerned about homegrown terrorists. They're concerned about foreign fighters. 30,000 of them have traveled from 100 countries to Iraq and Syria.
And the problem,
4,500 from visa waiver countries.
And the problem is
about this.
Many Republicans overreacted this to propose a solution that was not in line with American values. Republicans should have done the exact same thing I'm saying Democrats should have done, which is understand people's fears and then speak to their hopes and dreams. Say we need a religious test, not say we need to block all the refugees. You can say pause, like some Democrats have said, pause. Let's make sure
and that's actually what the House bill did, is call for a pause.
The legislation does not block refugees. The legislation simply makes our top 3 security officials certify that they're not a national security threat. Wouldn't necessarily slow it down. These same officials testify that the databases are maybe missing information.
But in the end, this helps Donald Trump.
It actually helps. It actually requires each official to identify and certify each person, where we have a system that does that now. That's going to be very inefficient. I believe it could grind the program to a halt. I don't like the idea of telling Daesh that we're going to disrupt our whole program, which has been working, just because of their threats. I think we should amend the program as needed, make sure we deal with these visa waiver issues, but we should not just do wholesale disruption.
It does seem like the far bigger problem right now is that anyone can come in from Europe without any checks at all because of this visa waiver.
We should address
that. That's part of it, but we've also have 250 Americans that have traveled over Iraq and Syria, and we have 900 investigations going on at home.
Stopping the refugees will not address that.
Right.
That's not going to. These are legitimate issues, but they don't mean that we should say no Syrian refugees.
We need to deal with all of them.
Finally, before we go to break, our Powerhouse Puzzler, inspired by this week's holiday. George Washington signed America's first Thanksgiving proclamation.